You're listening to a podcast from thespoilist.com. Cyberspace, the new frontier. These are the voyages of the podcast First Contact. Its mission? To explore every episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. To seek out new viewers and have new conversations. To boldly view what many have viewed before. Welcome to First Contact, the Star Trek The Next Generation intro cast, a guide to Star Trek's second show. This week we tried to have an exchange program, but no one else would come on this show. I'm Andrew.
I'm James.
And I'm Alex.
This week we have been watching A Matter of Honor. It first aired the week of February 6, 1989. It was written by Wanda M. Haight, Gregory Amos, Burton Amos, and was directed by Rob Bowman. James, what happens in this one?
There's an interspecies officer exchange program. Riker volunteers to join a Klingon ship as the first officer, while the Enterprise welcomes a Benzite. And that's all that happens this week.
Is that it? Is that your entire synopsis? That's lazy, James. You're letting it slip.
Some hijinks may ensue.
Yeah, so a fairly simple setup. Put a Starfleet officer onto a Klingon ship and see what happens. So, Alex, tell me, what did you think of this one?
When I saw the title, and I saw the word honour in the title, it rang alarm bells, I'll be honest. It really did. So I was pleasantly surprised to find one of the best that we've had. It very possibly is the best that we've had so far, isn't it?
So you don't think that the Klingons are racist anymore?
More on that later.
Yes, I think we can all agree that this is a strong episode. It uses Star Trek lore, a fairly simple setup, but used in an interesting way. A well-written script, some interesting character developments. We get to see a species in a way that we've not really seen them before. Not set up as an antagonist, but just a different culture and exploration. I like it. And you've got a B-plot, which ties in reasonably well. There's a Benzite on board the Enterprise as part of the exchange program. So, everyone like this episode then?
Well, yeah, I really liked it as well.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what we've got to say in quickfire.
It is very tough to talk about good episodes, because you inevitably start nitpicking just to have something to say, and then we seem like horrible people for being mean to a good episode.
Well, I mean, let's nail our colours to the mast right now then with this. It's a great episode. It's much better than anything else there's been. And with that in mind, now we can nitpick the details.
If you're annoyed by that sort of thing, go away, switch off now, stop listening, come back next week where we'll probably be annoyed again. Okay? And I don't know why you like listening to that if you're annoyed by our annoyances. What's wrong with you, you weirdos? Anyway, so let the nitpicking commence.
Shall we work through this in order?
It begins in the transporter room. There are new crew members coming on board, including a Benzite. Remember the Benzites? Mordok was a Benzite who Wesley did his Starfleet entry exam with. He was the first Benzite ever to enter Starfleet. And here we have another one in a Starfleet uniform.
And it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that they've already paid out for the costume.
No, and they know how to do the makeup, and the same actor was available.
And they use the excuse that they all look the same, which could be considered a bit dodgy.
I said we'd come back to that issue, didn't I?
How'd you tell each other apart?
We just do, you daft racist. In many ways, you see that opening and you think it's going to get off to a much worse start than it does. Having as it does, Wesley, who, let's be honest, has his annoying factor, welcoming on a group of ensigns who certainly bring their annoying factor with them as well.
Yeah, with this setup, you almost think, oh, this is going to be a comedy outsider on board episode. And there is a degree of that, and Wesley's going to have to show them the error of their ways, and that could have been horrific. But no, it goes in a different direction, still thematically connected to this. Nice little character moment in this scene with Riker exchanging a look with O'Brien. That sort of thing has been sorely missing. It's just, there's some camaraderie. People have personalities. People laugh. Isn't that nice to see?
I would say that I think the Riker plot is stronger than the Mendon-Wesley plot. That said, the two plots tie together and mirror each other in a nicer way than they have in other episodes, so you can forgive that to an extent. I think the Mendon plot does have irritations to it and things that don't necessarily work, but the Riker one is pretty solid, which you wouldn't necessarily get from his proper opening scene as well after this in the shooting range, where him and Picard go and play, well, ostensibly duck hunt.
But there's no dogs.
Oh, imagine if it was just shooting the puppies. That's what the puppies are for. Throw them up in the air and you've got to shoot them. Clay puppy shooting.
That's exactly what happens. They just paint them in neon colours. Actually, that's the point. They didn't say it was the holodeck. They specifically said it was the shooting range. That's a big room. Where the hell is that?
I'm bringing out the technical manual. I've got the technical manual. Do you want me to read the technical manual?
Oh no. Oh no. You know what will happen.
It's sitting there on my shelf. The spine never broken for fear. I quite like that. It adds texture. It's not just another scene in the ready room or on the bridge sitting in chairs. They're doing an activity. There's more to life on the Enterprise than sitting in comfy chairs on the bridge. I welcome any conversation that takes place on a slightly different set.
Though I have to say, things like this always amuse me slightly because they often make points about how the future has been a lot more idyllic than we might have imagined, and there's peace and whatnot. But they're still practicing their shooting. And they're still in an armed ship.
They're not the policemen of the universe, but they'll damn well make sure that there's order.
And they're pretty apt at nonce beating.
At this stage, are you wanting to learn more about the Klingons? Do you think that's quite an interesting setup, putting a human onto a Klingon ship? Riker, a little bit cocky, basically. I want to do what no one else has ever done before.
I think at this point, I wouldn't have been fussed either way about having them in a story, to be honest. If you told me it was a Klingon episode, I wouldn't have been bothered. It wouldn't have stood out to me. The thing that does make it interesting is that exchange plot. That's something a bit different. That really is quite interesting.
Yeah, there's no answering a distress call. There's no visiting a planet of the week. It's not fighting anything weird in space. It's a pretty original idea.
And when we complained last time about the fact that, the last episode was solid, but it was sort of retreading the way things have been done before. No, this is something new. And that's good.
And it is interesting that the Mendon plot almost... It did seem to feel like it was going in an old and tired direction, because at first it seemed like Mendon was the bad guy. He was almost trying to sabotage the Enterprise, when it turns out that he's just a bit incompetent because he's not used to the way Starfleet works.
And I think the episode at times treads a fine line on Mendon, in that he's meant to be annoying. That is the point. But you always tread that fine line when a character's meant to be annoying, that they just become that bit too annoying. I mean, we've seen it with Wesley in the past, and this is that amped up to an incredible degree. I mean, that part where Mendon's gone through the ship and is criticising everyone's work, and then gets to Wesley and goes, "Oh, that's excellent. Oh no, you're excellent, Mendon." And the verbal mutual masturbation continues. That is pretty close to getting me going, no, you've lost it now. You've lost it now. It treads a fine line, and it just manages to stay on the right side.
Early scenes, once it's been set up, very efficient actually in setting up. One conversation, do you want to go and do this? Yep, I'll go and do this. And then we see Riker preparing. He's trying out Klingon food. Riker, he'll put anything in his mouth, won't he?
Such as?
I mean, I'm ashamed that you feel the need to bring this podcast down with your filth.
Don't know what you're saying. I'm just talking about gah.
Gah.
You can say gah if I want. I'm not a Klingon.
Riker says gah, doesn't he? And then I think Pulaski correctly, for once, she gets something correct. She says gah.
It wasn't so long ago in Conspiracy that we also had Riker putting worms in his mouth. Do you think they just hate Jonathan Frakes?
No, it's just that they've got an excess of worming tablets since they killed all the dogs.
Worf, obviously, is a Klingon on the Enterprise, so I suppose we're playing almost the opposite of his situation, although he doesn't have a great deal to do in this episode. Gives Riker a nice bit of plot device. He sends him an emergency transponder. That seems like a perfectly reasonable thing to do as well. Nice setup, properly paid off at the end. Good, competent scripting, excellent, well done, points all around.
You don't need to be so condescending about it.
Don't I? Because I'm going to be brutally honest. In a lot of episodes, it does seem like writers do not know how to structure an episode. And people can say, oh, you've never written anything, you don't work in television, you're just sitting there on your comfy chair, handing out horrible, nasty critiques because you can. And I say this to them, I don't even have a comfy chair. I've watched a lot of television, so I am allowed to critique this kind of thing, and the free act structure, and the poor writing, because I can, and I'm a dick, and if you want to do it, you start your own podcast. If you want me to stop doing it, don't download this one. I can't remember what my point was. No, you're right. There isn't any need to be condescending. There are a lot of very good writers working for Star Trek, and I've probably reached the point in this podcast where we have been a little bit harsh and a little bit mean, and we should actually be doling out more praise and not treating them like they're children who have just managed to draw a very pretty drawing of a snowflake brutally murdering people.
Nah. So on with the nitpicking. Why is Riker going to Worf for advice about Klingon hierarchy aboard a spaceship? Because, as we've established before, Worf hasn't been brought up by Klingons. He wouldn't know.
Because he's studied them lots. I suppose it's like these people who are really big fans of Japanese culture but have never actually been there, and they just are really obsessive about it, and they have all the t-shirts and stuff and watch lots of anime.
Ah, those tedious bastards.
Yeah, them. So Worf's like that, and he's like, yeah, I know all the stuff. I'm really, really into the Klingon. Well, why didn't you go there then? Why did you join Starfleet? Why didn't you go back to the Klingon Empire?
I'm just a bit racist.
Well, the thing is, as we see from this episode, Worf is a lot different to the actual Klingons.
Actually, no, that's quite interesting. The humour element. And I suppose, would you say that the Klingon captain is quite humorless as well at times?
It seems to me there's a lot more about him. He's certainly more capable of humour, whereas Worf is incredibly buttoned down, almost repressed, except for in scenes where, he's trying to murder Riker with a pickaxe because he's in his holodeck program. But Worf is certainly has the least sense of humour out of perhaps the regular cast, and quite interesting, almost deliberate characterization. He is cool because he has to restrain himself within human culture in order to meet protocol, whereas these Klingons are quite naturally bawdy and aggressive and funny in some ways.
Though I suppose it's only the same as, Worf being buttoned down is only the same as, say, Picard, if you're trying to draw a parallel. The interactions are quite interesting. And that humour thing, quite a laddie kind of humour, really, isn't it?
It's incredibly laddie. That scene in the mess hall where you've got the women, and it's basically, hey, you know what I would do? I've had your mum. It's that kind of laddish one-upmanship that's going on. It's kind of a pissing contest, but you do buy it. It's that alpha male thing, and Riker certainly got that swagger, and the Klingons seem to have it as well. It's common ground. Again, good writing, well performed, well directed.
Well, almost well performed, but some of the laughing was just a bit over the top.
It's saved by some good lines, I think. I mean, especially the one of, if Klingon food is too strong for you, perhaps we can get one of the females to breastfeed you. I mean, again, that's quite laddie in a way. But, I mean, it's actually a rare occasion of this series so far of them trying to be funny and actually being funny intentionally.
And I suppose it could be accused of being sexist, but you do have the Klingon women in the mess hall. They're maybe not quite giving as good as they're getting, but they're certainly contributing and are in on the joke. It's not completely anti-Klingon women, but you would have liked there to be a more notable female character in the episode.
Well, I mean, to me, really, those female Klingons are just an alien form of Dick Emery. Because, let's be honest, oh, you are awful, but I like you, is really just the same as, oh, he is not very attractive, but I will have him.
So, every episode needs to have some kind of plot, I suppose, and here...
Yes, yeah, we hate it when it goes all David Lynch and just has a series of unconnected scenes.
Every episode has some kind of plot device, I suppose. And here we have a weird space bacteria that's eating the hull of the ship. The Enterprise scans it, and because it's being done by Mendon, he doesn't report it. Oh man, Mendon, you always make us laugh. And he did so many times in the Argyle Factor, where he was a series regular.
To be honest, if I saw Hull being destroyed, I think I'd keep that quiet as well until the deed was done. I don't feel we've lost anything.
We've lost her listener in Hull. Sorry, Steve. And of course this bacteria is on the hull of the Klingon ship, and because the Enterprise was scanning that area quite intently, I understand, they think it's a Federation plot against them. In which case, I feel the Klingons probably underestimate the Federation. What kind of crap weapon is that? Yeah, we're just going to put some slime on the hull of your vessel. We could shoot you. But no, what we like to do is slowly destroy a ship with some weird kind of bacteria.
I mean, maybe I missed a plot point, but where did that come from? Because it's obviously quite fast acting.
Space. It comes from space.
Right. Okay. Because I saw that the ship had weapons docks, and I wondered if they had some sort of biological weapon that got loose or something like that, which actually might have been better. It would have been an irony that they're the cause of it all.
This is what I mean by plot device, and it doesn't necessarily have to have a cause. You know, in space you can just randomly get pregnant, or your hull can fall apart, or maybe something can make you age extremely rapidly. Things happen in space, and we just have to deal with that. But sometimes interesting things happen in space. I mean, that actual plot is incidental. It doesn't really matter. That's, it is a bit rubbish, to be honest, but it doesn't matter because it's about how Riker deals with the chain of command on the Klingon ship, and that's the interesting thing. It doesn't need to be anything too complex or in-depth because it is just a way for us to observe another culture from a Federation point of view.
And I mean, and you're right, that is the interesting part of the episode. The episode picks up whenever it goes back to that ship, and seems like the mess hall are great. The scenes I probably have most issue with involve the captain, because although we're getting the conflict, which is where the plot's coming from, it goes on for so long with the captain being so completely unable to listen to any kind of reason, which before anyone says, I get that that's meant to be a trait of the species. But it goes on for so long that it starts to border on the irritating a little bit.
You say that as a trait of the species, but it seems to me like every other Klingon is sort of on Riker's side in some way, especially towards the end when the captain's so determined to take on the Enterprise and blow it up, and it just does seem beyond unreasonable. There's always the Klingons, die in glorious battle, and you just think, fighting over some slime, a small puncture on the hull of your ship, is that a glorious way to go out? I'm not really sure. If all Klingons act that irrational, then every captain would be killed every day, and they would just run out of crew until there was just a lone Klingon saying, well, I'm captain now, yeah, I've got a ship. Oh, what am I going to do? I think maybe they do push that element a little bit too far, but I understand exactly why they've done it.
Oh yeah. For plot reasons, it makes total sense. I feel it perhaps just goes on a couple of beats too long, maybe. That maybe what you could have done with was a little more ambiguity for him, so that it was still vaguely believable that the Enterprise was responsible, perhaps. It was more than just a massive leap of coincidence and whatnot. That it wasn't so black and white. There were some shades of grey, and it was a case of listen to Riker, because he's come from the ship. Why would he speak against it? He has honour. You don't believe he has honour, but he does. That would have been a slightly better way to go about it. Don't get me wrong, it gets away with it, but it's straying a little close for my liking.
In that case, do you think perhaps the episode would have been better if there had been fewer scenes on the Enterprise, if we'd actually spent more time, almost all of the episode, there with Riker? We could even open with him already on the Klingon ship, part of the exchange program, and then the Klingons find this bacteria, and Riker can't explain it, and the Enterprise had been intensely scanning or projected a beam onto this area that was infected and was destroying the ship. And that might have been more interesting. We don't know. The Enterprise might actually have an agenda. And then we go back and we find that out. I think that might have been quite an interesting way to structure it. But again, that's completely nitpicking and me reviewing a script a long way after the fact.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a very different approach to the episode that would give it a different feel. Trying to keep the audience more in the dark. You'd be treading the fine line of the problem we had last week of how it's going to resolve. But, I mean, with a good writer, you can get around that. I mean, that would have been quite an interesting way to go about it. That said, I see what they're doing with this one. I see that they're trying to mirror what's happening on the Klingon ship with what's happening on the Enterprise, with what's happening with Mendon. You've got the thematic mirroring going on. You've got both of them going onto ships that they're not from before. You've got how they react to it. I see what they're doing there, and it's a perfectly valid choice. Either way is fine, frankly.
So at the end, it would seem that Riker has a difficult choice to make. Does he go the Klingon way and actually kill the captain and take command, or does he have a different solution? The transponder comes into play, set up early in the episode, as we mentioned. Hands it to him. The captain gets transported onto the Enterprise. Clever resolve, very neat.
Although that whole section does lead to the slightly unintentionally hilarious moment where he takes the transponder out, and you have the captain saying, "What is that? What is it? Oh, nothing. I mean, if in that situation he'd suddenly pulled out this little device that you'd never seen before, I would have imagined they'd have shot him on sight, considering the way things were going down."
Yeah, a little, hand me this and let me look at it. If the Klingon chain of command is as brutal as it sounds, yeah, Riker would have got shot, but I'll accept it. Again, that's a nitpick.
It's worthwhile for that whole nice turnaround at the end, where Riker even gets the Enterprise to surrender. I thought that was a really nice touch, actually. I wasn't expecting it to go to quite that extent, and the fact they did surprised me. And God knows we've needed episodes which surprise us. I actually thought the turnaround of this one was clever and didn't necessarily go the way you expected from 30 minutes before. And it almost seems condescending to say it, but it is such a drastic improvement from what there was before.
Well done. You've got our approval. I know that's what you've been seeking, Star Trek The Next Generation. I know Rick Berman sits and listens to this podcast just in the hope we'll say something nice. Well, Rick.
You've got lovely hair.
We're giving you this one, Rick. There you go. You take that home, you can polish your little First Contact trophy. Well done. And keep making that hit TV, Rick.
Well, that's enough of the condescending. Now we can move on to Quickfire.
Quickfire.
You know what? All throughout the episode, we see Mendon going around the ship, smoking away, and nobody ever tells him to put out the cigarette. Then again, there's not a single no smoking sign on the Enterprise.
Well, I mean, you say that. I'm watching him, and I keep thinking it looks like a harmonica holder. I keep thinking Bob Dylan's let himself go. That they're going to turn to him. Just what is it that's eating the hull of the ship?
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. Yeah.
Captain Kargan was played by Christopher Collins, who would go on to make more appearances in Star Trek The Next Generation and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He is now dead. Sorry to break it to you.
I think that's the most partridge we've done so far. Now, I said we'd come back to the racism.
Oh, I thought you only wanted to talk about the racism with Mendon.
I wanted to talk about the food. Because looking up what that food was made of, the gach was noodles, as we said. The blood pie, turnips and pumpkin pies dyed red. Chicken feet for Pippa's claw. A mixture of organs for the heart of Targ. And then we need some other things that look alien and just just weird. I mean, no one would eat that sort of stuff. Yeah, I mean, sort of that's food for savages. Where do we find that? Well, apparently where you find that is an Asian market. LeVar Burton and Marina Sirtis absent from this episode. Anyone notice?
Do you know, until you said that, I genuinely didn't notice. I had no idea.
How could Diana Troy not be in here? She could have told us that the Klingons are feeling angry.
And just a quick return to our occasional feature, Euphemism of the Week, with the lines, "Actually, I just welcomed Ensign Mendon aboard. He certainly seems eager to please." Well, that's a Benzite trait.
These are the words of Maurice Hurley.
A matter of honor. It was just a good idea. It dealt with a social problem. One of the things that the old Star Trek did, which the new Star Trek can't do so well, was make comments on the issues. You take a show like A Matter of Honor, and you say, we're gonna do a little culture swapping, so we explore what it must be like to be the only black face in a room of 40 white people. That must be kinda tough. That's what Worf, in a sense, is doing. He's the only Klingon on a basically human ship. So we said, let's spin it! Let's put somebody on an all-Klingon vessel and see how that works. What's it like to be a fish out of water? What's it like to be the only white face at meeting in Harlem? That's gotta be a little funny, a little different, a little tense. That's how that show got started. It was a way to look at a contemporary social problem and give it a spin.
So, I think what Maurice there is saying that is sensitive to racial issues, and he really understands what's going on.
I do feel really in this one time. I do feel bad for Maurice Hurley because I feel like his heart is in the right place, but he can't help the way he is.
I mean, it's coming from a misguided place, but ultimately it produced something good. That about wraps up that episode. Will the good streak continue? Next time we'll be watching The Measure of a Man. But for now, goodbye.
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 I love Maurice Hurley.
He does seem like a man who should be dead. I'm not being mean. Do you know what I mean when I say that?
No, like he's from a different age.
Well, yeah, kind of. He seems like a guy who these comments shouldn't exist when he's alive.
The fact that that was put in a retrospective book, that's like him reflecting on it after a period of time. Oh my god, he's still working.
He's trying to bring back the black and white minstrel show.
I'm not. No, his last credit is on the Indian version of 24.